What's up, guys? Todd and Brandon with Make Sales Great Again. We have a very special guest today, Mara Dorne. Man, we are so happy to have you, Mara. Thank you for being here. You're one of our clients, an extraordinary businesswoman. You got a lot going on, and we just want to talk about it today and just to get to know you better. So if you want to tell a little bit about who you are, we'd appreciate it.
Wow, I thought you were going to do the introduction. I don't know about special.
Mother, author, entrepreneur, businesswoman.
Like everything. Is we missing anything?
I mean,
Model.
Not model. Definitely not model. No. Maybe wannabe model. I don't know. If I'm model. I'm definitely too short, and I'm so awkward that there's no way I could ever be a model ever. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think mom and entrepreneur and wife, and I think that's really trying to get into that public speaking arena, and that's really where I'm at.
So I want to know, because we know a lot about you, but there's some specifics that I don't know. So people know you run basically a sales organization empire. You really do. But that's where you are now. So give me a little bit of the story of how you got into it and how long and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, real quick before you do, because you were literally just talking, which I thought was really cool. You were just saying, yeah, we're talking about who's going to come over for your husband's birthday party this weekend. And you mentioned somebody like, I was their babysitter, which is crazy for most people to think of where you are now, that you were someone's babysitter. So tell us, how everything started.
Yeah, that's so funny because a lot of people that work with me, I mean, I have decade plus relationship with them. So it is kind of funny to kind of go back down memory lane, a little nostalgic. But how did I start? So for me, I was, I've told my story so many times. Let me get the Reader's Digest version. But I was raised by a single mom, and my mom's big thing was education. So I always thought growing up that there was no choice to go to college. I thought that's just what everybody did. And I already kind of had my career path. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I was very passionate about it. I even went to a pre-law magnet school. I graduated from the University of Central Florida with my master's and undergraduate degree in criminal justice. So I had it written out. This is the path that I was going on. I was 100% sure I wanted to be a litigator, help people, especially children. I had a really soft spot for that. And then I got married, and 2008 happened. And for those that remember 2008, it was a terrible time. The economy completely crashed, and my ex-husband at the time had businesses in tourism all over Orlando. And that was the time that Circuit City and Radio Shack were going out of business. And my ex-husband was in electronics, and the entire economy crashed, and so did our businesses. So we lost 6 businesses, 6 months. I had just gotten my master's degree. I just had my daughter, and there I was. I'm like, okay, great. I'm ready to go to law school, but there was no money. So I couldn't go to law school, and we were drowning in debt. So I thought, you know what? I need to start lowering my health or my household bills. And one of the biggest bills I had were my health insurance premiums. So not even knowing, at the time anything about health insurance, I went online, put an inquiry. This girl comes, she sells me health insurance, and then Monday morning her boss calls me. I'm thinking it's like a quality assurance call. Yeah. And the boss was like, hey, the girl that you met really liked you, and she thought you do really well with sales. And I'm like, what the? I never sold shit in my I never sold anything, not even a brownie. It was crazy to even think. So he was like, why don't you just come in, see what it's about? I had nothing going on, and we were literally desolate at this point. I mean, the car was just repossessed a week prior. We were in foreclosure. We had begged and borrowed from everyone we knew. So I'm like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. So I go and I walk into this it looked like a multi-level marketing scam. I walk into this studio or this huge, not studio, but auditorium. And there was 150 people in there. And there was this guy, and he's super excited about health insurance, and we're going to make all this money. And I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And this is awful. I run out, and he finds me at the end of the hallway, and he's like, so what'd you think? I'm like, absolutely not. And the family I come from, sales was very cliche. You don't go into sales. You just don't do that. And he was like, look, there is this thing called residual income. And I never even heard that term. I had no idea what that was. And he was like, look, you can create something where your money is going to work for you, and you're not always going to have to work for your money. I'm like, all right, well, this kind of sounds interesting. What do I have to lose? So that was it. I went and got the health insurance license, which is your 215. I started. I wish that I could tell you that I defied all odds and I was this great salesperson. Literally everybody I knew, including my mom, was like, there's no way you're going to make this in sales. There's absolutely no way. And little did I know that I was going into a predominantly older male-dominated space. I had no idea. The only thing I knew was the girl that had brought me in. So I I figured, maybe it is young. I had no idea. And I started as a door-to-door, business-to-business, kneecap-to-kneecap salesperson. I was the youngest female in the industry. So, or not in the industry, but in my specific company. And it was challenging. I mean, it was probably the most tumultuous time of my life because I had won at everything that I had done previously and I was failing. It took me 6 months to make money. And it was an ego check for sure. And then I had this moment of what I call this aha moment where it all kind of clicks. And it was a moment of clarity where you have to be really real with yourself and have an introspective look at who you really are. And the problem why I wasn't making money is because I was 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe in the product. I always thought I still had this dream that I was going to law school. So I wasn't fully bought in. And I wanted to blame everybody except for myself as to why it wasn't working out for me. And when I finally said, you know what, I am the problem, that was it. It completely changed. And within the next 6 months, I went from making $0 to my first 6-income salary. And then 2 years after that, I made 7 figures. And it was a game changer, being in this industry. And then the industry or the company itself, they were so gracious to let us come into this space and they made a space for women. It wasn't like, oh, no women. There just wasn't a lot of women. Mm-hmm. And, all of a sudden, the demographics started to change in the company and younger people started coming in. There was different races, religions. And I'd like to think that, not only myself, but other people had a hand in that. And the company began to grow. And so did my career. So I always say I started like from the way bottom. Now I'm here. But the truth is that, I started just like every other salesperson, worked all the way up to being the second person in the company. A woman was the first one. And I'm the second woman to eclipse over $1 billion in sales. And, right now my passion is helping people. It's not about the money anymore at all, zero. It's just about inspiring other people, especially women, and giving that voice to women that you can excel in a male-dominated industry. There's nothing holding you back. It's you.
Those male assholes. I hate them. Why don't we just all women? You said a couple things that I really just want to kind of talk about briefly that really hit home with me was the self-accountability and resilience. Also, all joking aside, as a young woman in a male-dominated industry, that takes a lot of guts. I mean, like the resilience you had, and then just looking at yourself, being self-accountable. I know we talk about it all the time. We go to trainings or we do big speaking gigs for large organizations. Everybody always asks, what actually pushes you forward. You can teach people all the skills in the world, but if you don't have self-accountability and you can't, because they like to blame, right? It's a blame game. Well, they didn't give me this. They didn't train me this. Sounds like you didn't have a lot of that. And the next thing I want to talk about is, I don't know if you know this, but we have LSAT Brandon sitting next to me right now.
Attorney.
He is an attorney. He's definitely not an attorney, but he took the LSATs and you did crush it, by the way. What'd you score?
Crushed it like a one. Well, I thought I crushed. I got a 160 on my LSATs, but
which is
I was
good.
right there too. I watched every episode and every season of Suits,
which basically
and
makes
Law and
you
Order,
aware.
so I was well prepared. But no, it's funny. I was on that track too.
No, I say that because I also had a 2-year probationary scholarship to go to Baylor University, and then obviously started gambling for a living. If anybody knows my story, at a very young age to help provide for my family, et cetera. But we talk about your criminal justice and your master's and your undergrad and wanting to be an attorney. Sales, I'm surprised that people said you wouldn't make it in sales, because if you want to be an attorney, it's basically sales. We've actually done coaching and mentoring for law firms, right? Because it is negotiation, it is sales, right? You're selling your side, someone's selling the other. I would imagine that if I met you and had a conversation with you, whether it might be timid, you weren't the strong, confident Mara you are now, just want to be an attorney, that's a lot. And it takes a lot. It takes brains, it takes guts, it takes resilience, it takes self-accountability. And you're also, you're serving someone always, which we know you very well. We know that's your passion, right? So I think becoming or wanting to become an attorney, for some reason, it's always attached. They either become an attorney or they're becoming sales, right?
Yeah.
Is that pretty much it? Yeah.
It works hand in hand. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Definitely.
So, I mean, how was it being, because it's funny, I looked it up this morning because I was curious. I was like, obviously, you've achieved a lot of success in the career and you continue to do it. And insurance isn't unlike the sales industry as a whole in that it is pretty male dominated. And I was trying to look up this morning, like the stats behind it. And globally in the entire sales industry, only 29% of sales reps are female and only 26% of sales leaders are female. And there's a bunch of kind of hypotheses as to why that is, but you are the best person to ask. Why do you think that it is so male dominated?
I think for a few reasons. I think men in general are just more aggressive. I mean, I think I think that's really what it comes down to. But I think there's another part of it for women too. You know, for so many years, and I've talked about this many times, women have fought so hard for equality, which is crazy to me. Like, we fought so hard for equal rights, voting privileges, to be seen equal as a man. And now we're in a society where, women they want to be equal and they want equal pay, and they just don't take advantage of it. And I think that they fall victim to the stigma. I think that's what happens. And then they also fall victim to what they think their role should be. There's a lot of that. I went through it, people mom shaming me a lot, sacrificing my kids, leaving them in daycare till 6 o'clock. I was definitely that mom. Am I ashamed? Absolutely not. But maybe that's what it was. And I think a lot of women get caught up in even the social media nonsense, like what a woman should be as opposed to what I want to be. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of reasons why women do not excel, but because surprisingly, women that do well in our industry do very exceptionally well. Because, people like to talk to women, men like to talk to women, and women like to talk to women. But I think women just give up. Like, they're so accustomed to falling victim to that victim mentality that they're like, all right, you know what? I can't do it. And we're sensitive, by nature, but it works. The thing is that I don't think they realize, and I've said this, it's so inappropriate, but my mom told me from an early age that the power of the P, it's a real thing. And it is a real thing. And we don't hone in on it enough because we do have that nurturing side to us. And I think a lot of the times that women, they get so caught up in their feelings and they get so sensitive that it doesn't work. And instead of pushing forward,
sorry, go ahead. No, yeah.
No, I think, I would take a guess because, we've been in a lot of different sales rooms. I think a lot of women are scared to just get into it because it's so bro.
It's aggressive.
There's a lot of broness.
Oh yeah, and there's
sales and in rep rooms, and you gotta have a thick skin to be able to take a joke and listen to some dudes joke about some probably inappropriate shit.
And the locker room talk. You have to be okay with that.
There also is the power of the P on the man side, isn't there? It could be the power of the P there.
Sometimes
I'm just throwing it out there, Mara. We both have that initial, so I'll put it out there. But I will say this, and I don't know if anybody watching this actually knows this, but I kind of pulled a nerdy Brandon this morning and looked this up myself. Brandon's a stat guy, as you know, right? And I was looking at the production in sales, like how successful women are compared to men that are in sales, and men are going to hate this.
I think women are probably more successful because we're more thorough and organized.
And there's actually a stat that shows out of male and women, and sorry if the gender person, but it's the truth, right? Out of male and women are way more productive and way more efficient in sales than men, and they have more success. So although 29% or whatever that number is are in sales, there was no number attached to it, but I would imagine, because the stat is showing that women are more successful in sales, that would almost be equal as far as volume produced, maybe a little bit less because it is 71% dominated by men.
For sure.
But if you look at it, it's like half the amount of women are in sales than are men. But the production, because they're more efficient and they're more successful, the dollar volume in sales is much higher on a per person basis in sales than it is for men.
I believe that. I know that wholeheartedly. That's why I used to be like a guy's guy. I would love to hang out. But honestly, and no offense, but I love working with women, especially powerful women, because you know that they're going to get it done. You know that. You know that they're going to be efficient. You know that it's going to be creative. You know, if a powerful woman's in there, they're not getting their feelings hurt, because men, you guys get your feelings hurt a lot. Very sensitive.
I think it adds to that. I think to add to that is ego and pride, which is it's so less prevalent in women than it is men. I think men have to flex, and we have to be the ones that just step up, and we have to be the ones that look at me, look how good I'm doing. Why did Brandon get the promotion over me? When women are really empowering one another, which is a big difference. And I feel like for a lot of men, their lack of success comes from pride and ego. So you talk about their emotions and their feelings. Yes, that has a big part of it. To me, I truly believe that ego and pride play the largest role in why men aren't successful. When other women, empowering strong women, especially since the leadership in women is so much more less than men, just because there's more men doing it. Yeah. The leaders like yourself and other powerful women that are actually doing so well, a lot of that stuff doesn't bother you. Like if one of your girlfriends was to get a promotion, I've seen it firsthand. You're lifting them up, you're empowering them, you're saying congratulations, you're doing anything you can to support them. Where if Brandon and I don't know someone, or we do, we're in our minds we're saying, what? Why did they get the promotion and why didn't we? And unfortunately it happens because ego is the biggest dream killer on the planet. I just feel like women have so far less of an ego when it comes to supporting one another in business over men.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's funny. The sales, I think, is probably arguably the best arena for to show that there is no, it's hard to measure some in other industries. Sometimes it can be more difficult and less quantitative to measure how good is Todd doing versus how good is Mar doing at their job. Sometimes there's just some things that are harder to measure. But in sales, there's one measurement, and it's volume and performance. So that's what speaks in sales. I mean, hell, even when it comes to promoting leaders and stuff, it's can you write business or can you not write business? And there's a damn clear leaderboard. So I think it lends itself well to a woman to be able to come in and know that, for the most part, any kind of sexism or anything like that won't hold you back. If you can write business, you're going to be a superstar, and it's up to you to write the business.
It's so true.
So it's a perfect landscape for it, I would imagine.
I think that's what it was for me too. Like I never saw gender when I was going through all this, ever. Zero. It was never like, I never went in even thinking, this wasn't until years later that I was like, oh my God, I'm in a male dominated space. I never even saw that. For me, it was like, I want to be there and I want to be the best. And I didn't care if it was male or female. It didn't matter to me. And same thing with leadership. When I got into leadership, I didn't care who I was leading. It didn't matter if you were male or female. You're a salesperson, and you're right. What mattered to me is, can you write business and can you lead people? It wasn't like, are you a man that could lead people? Are you a woman? It was never like that. And despite all of that, I think because maybe I was gender neutral and never saw it, that it made it so much easier for me. And it's just like, I always kind of chuckle because when people ask me, well, what was it like being in a male dominated space? I never even thought about it. That was never even a single thought. It was just, I wanted to be the best and I wanted to get there and I wanted to get there fast.
Well, you have, and the success is obvious, right? And you have a massive organization that you have built alongside with your husband, Seth, who you guys are just crushing it, and also extraordinary people we love very much. But you're not here just because of that. We wanted you on here because of a couple things. I'm going to ask you one more question to business, and I'm going to shift gears a little bit. But like, I know you, and I know how important it is for people to be coachable in your business, right? Like with the people that are within your hierarchy. We've talked about it time and time again. But taking gender out of the equation, how important is it to be coachable, to be able to like actually take someone's advice and implement it in your business, regardless of gender, women, men, etc.? How important is it to be coachable?
I think that's number one. That's the key to being a good leader, is being coachable and teachable. We're constantly learning. It's an evolution. If you can't be coachable, teachable, then you're not learning. Yeah. And if you're not learning, then you're stagnant, and that's not a good leader. So it's imperative, whether it doesn't matter if you're an agent or you're the highest leader, you have to be willing to be coachable. None of us are without flaws. We're all flawed, and we all can use coaching, and we can use mentorship. I still have, I have a coach, I have sales coaches. I always have consultants because I want to be better. And if somebody doesn't have that same mentality and are really open, like, people are the yes guys, like, I'm good, open, but, are not really open. Yeah. But you have to be really open and introspective and be willing to hear it from a third party. And that's why I love, working with you guys, because you guys are not part of our business, but it gives me another perspective. So, because, I'm emotionally attached to it and involved. And a lot of times, if you can't separate it, it's hard. So I think it's imperative. You have to be coachable in any business, not even
you spend a lot of money. We don't have to say the number, but you spend a lot of money to surround yourselves with good people. And I love the fact, because obviously that's what we do. We are consultants. So we have the luxury of working with you guys and other people as well. But I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't know. They're like, man, I don't know if I want to spend $1,000, $2,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. Obviously, it's all relative to your income at the time.
For sure.
But do you believe that actually pouring money into helping or advancing yourself in your career on outside resources is something that most people should do?
100% without a doubt, because I think what happens is, you're right, ego gets involved and you're at a point and you're like, all right, well, I got this. But to be honest, you guys have shown me so many different things that I wasn't doing. Yeah, I led a successful organization, but was it without flaws? There was 100 flaws. There was millions of them. You guys showed me a lot of things that I was unaware of, like especially with accountability. I wanted to hold people accountable, but something as simple as writing it down when you're talking to them, like, make sure you have a plan. I didn't really have a real plan, and that's a lot of what it comes down to is if you're not willing to spend the extra time and money, but not only just for myself. I mean, I wanted to bring you guys in for me, but I also wanted you guys to help coach my entire organization. Because it's one thing if you're teaching me the tricks of the trade, that's fine. But I think it has to be around your entire organization as well. So it's not just spending the funds on yourself, but you also have to be ready to spend it on the people that you work with. So everybody's on the same page.
And like, obviously I want a disclaimer out there. We also had to prove ourselves to you too, right? So it's like, I think there are people out there that have mentors or coaches that they're running with. They're waiting for just to click and they're kind of lighting money on fire because it doesn't work. We have a good relationship, right? Inside business and outside. But I think that you were vetting us equally as like, we have the luxury of who we want to work with. And so do you, right? I think sometimes, people wait too long when they're not getting like what they want out of a coach or a mentor, and I always want to tell people like, it's okay. Cause we're not going to be the right fit for everybody. You're not going to be the right fit for everybody. And it's okay. But I always tell people making the choice to have a coach or a mentor or someone to help support you or your organization is the right move. But also don't light money on fire so long that you're like, dude, I'm not getting anything out of this at all. Right. Yeah. And what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think what you put in is what you're going to get out. And if you're not open and transparent, like we meet with you guys every Monday, and there were definite times where we were like, okay, we don't know. But that was our fault. That was we just weren't asking you guys the right questions. We knew what we wanted, but if we're not sitting there talking every single week, recapping, going over, I mean, you guys spent a lot of time too understanding our business. So, as far as that goes, yeah, I've seen it. I've been guilty of it where I'm like, why am I not getting the answers I need? Well, you're not mind readers either. I think you need to say that from like disclaimer. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know everything. I don't know what your needs are. I don't know. You have to be verbal and there has to be an open dialogue and conversation because you guys bring so much value to the table, but it has to be an open conversation. So if you're not getting what you need, then just open your mouth and say something.
I think, and this doesn't go to you. This is not meant directed at you at all.
You said that
but
definitely about her.
Here's what I would, something that comes to mind because we have dealt with this in the past where, I mean, it's happened fairly recently. I mean, if anyone's watching or listening or whatever, like if you're kind of open to the idea of bringing in someone, someone's help or perspective or whatever, whether it's what we do or something totally different, and you're going to spend money on it and put your money where your mouth is, that's all great. And those are amazing steps. But if you're not going to do anything with the information that the person's giving you don't go to a psychologist and they tell you what to do and think, and you go, yeah, that's not right. You go because you have to do something with the information. And we've had clients, again, not you.
I've done it. I have done it before.
Well, no, but sometimes it could be hard, but I'm talking like just straight up, yeah, no, every single time. Like no matter what we say, nothing, not even should I go do this thing, and then we say do this, and then you don't do it. But it's just everything where we tell them and they're agreeing, yeah, that sounds great. Great idea. Let's do that. Great idea. Let's do that. And then you never put it in action. You're going to light money on fire, dude. You're going to waste money. So if you're going to go get advice, like use the advice.
Yeah, we've had clients that spend a lot of money with us for like a day or two, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of money. We'll come in, we'll do a deep dive, we'll spend our entire weekend with them. They'll block it off. They'll go to get away from their families. They'll do everything that we're asking them to do. We build out an action plan. We meet with them ahead of time. We know what the days are going to be. They're grueling, long days, helping like kind of build businesses or take an existing business, break them down, rebuild them up. We'll go through it, and then all of a sudden we'll say, well, these are the next steps that we all agree on that you should move forward. And they're like, yeah, okay. And then we have follow-up calls and we're like, hey, how's that going? Right. And we build an action plan, total accountability, and nothing's done. Yeah. And we're like, dude, if you wanted to light $20,000 or $30,000 on fire, by all means, that's on you. But I think for us, and I know it's the same thing in your organization, when you pour into someone, you want them to get something out of it. Otherwise, you just rather not do it, right? Because it's kind of like, why should we spend our time? To us, it's not about the money. The money is always great. I remember the first meeting I had with you when you came to my office and you wanted to write a book, which your book's doing fantastic, by the way, which we'll talk about as well. But you wanted to write a book, and you were in the process of writing a book, actually, and you said, yeah, just, do you have any publishers? And you're asking me questions, et cetera, stuff like that. And I said, yeah. And I mentioned something. And you literally looked at me. You're like, it's not about the money. You're like, I'm fortunate enough to have money. In a very humble response you did too, by the way. It was fantastic. You're like, not like, oh, look at me, I have money. It was like, no, I have money. I get it. It's not about the money. It's like, I really want to impact women. I really want to impact people, but women specifically because of my journey. And I think that that's so powerful for people to know about you specifically, because I don't think people really know the Mara. And the transition was, oh, the magazines and the covers. And I'm going to transition to a question here that's kind of away from that, but I want to hear from you. You have money and you have a beautiful family and you have the homes and you have the cars and you have the jewelry and you have the house and you have all this crazy stuff. It's really not who you are. And I want people to know that, because we have the luxury of knowing you and your husband, your family very well. You care too much sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You pour into people nonstop. The money is irrelevant. You're like, I don't care what does it cost. If you can get something out of it, I'll do it. And it doesn't really do anything for you. I've seen you do it time and time again. Why do you do that? And why is that such a big part of who you are?
I think I just really like to fix things that are broken. I have, it's a double-edged sword. I love it. My love language is to give. I don't like to receive. I can buy my own stuff. I don't need anyone to give me anything. Even when you guys gave me something, I was mortified. That's just not who I am.
Very cool pen.
But yeah, it is very cool. First comment I want to say is, number one, I ended up finishing that book because I told you I would. And I'm big on being impeccable. If I say I'm going to do something, I am going to do it. I don't care how ridiculous it sounds. If I tell you, and I always heard your voice in the back of my head, and you would always ask me about it too.
I was just going to say,
how's that book coming? And I'm like, oh man, shit. Now I really have to do it. Yeah. So that's a big thing, is being impeccable. The other thing is I've been there. I know what it's like. I know the struggle is really real. And when I meet people that really want me to pour into them, I will do it. I will give the shirt off my back. I'll give my last dollar to somebody, and it's to see them succeed and to be privy to that. I think that's enough reward, is if I can positively impact every single person that I meet, whether it's just like from a simple hug or whatever the case may be. I think that is the best feeling in the world, and that's part of my legacy I want to leave behind, and that's why I do it. It's not about the money. I don't care about it.
And for you, I will say, Mara, it's the humble response and the real response that you just gave us is very genuine, and I know that because I know of you, and I want everybody else to know that, because people that know me know I don't blow smoke up anybody's ass. You are a lot like me in that sense as well. But I also feel like there's a lot of confidence in your story. I know you, and if you lost everything tomorrow, you'd rebuild it like that. I just know you, and you have that confidence in yourself now to do that where you may not have had it. So let's shift gears a little bit, because recently, we've seen a lot more of Mara on social media, with your book and the magazine covers and all this stuff and the great interviews. I mean, obviously we're the biggest one she's done ever, obviously. Yeah. But you've done some great podcasts and great interviews, and you like genuinely posted online how you're like, I'm not a model. I'm not doing this. It's very uncomfortable for me to be in this environment. I have to push myself to do that. You also have pictures as a woman, which I think that people they have no right to judge, no right to say. I think, like you've said multiple times, women, inclusive of men, let's just be clear, but women, because I think they get judged more, right? Based on what you wear, like your outfit that day, and
sure.
Everything of who you are, if they know you as a person, is classy, right? And I think that a lot of times people get prejudged. How's that gone for you, with the magazines and, whether outfits you wore or stuff? I know you do it to empower women. You don't just do it to be on a magazine. You want to show women they can. How's it been going so far?
Yeah. I knew that going into the social media space was me putting myself out there. I knew that going in. I knew that I had to have thick skin, and I knew that I wasn't going to be everybody's cup of tea. But I also knew that my mission was far greater, or my purpose was greater than myself. So I kind of was like, I already know this is going to happen. Let's see. And it did happen. It definitely did. I put myself out there. I've been on some covers, glamorous, maybe a little provocative. But if you read the article, or you read what it really means, is number one, that is the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever put myself in. Doing these shoots, if you know me, I am not sexy. So to even look like that it's so crazy to me, and it's uncomfortable. It's super uncomfortable. And that's part of why I did it, is because a big part of my mission is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that's number one. Number two, I really wanted women to understand that you can be a woman, and you can be sexy, and you can be a businesswoman, and you can be a mom who's sexy, and a mom that goes to the gym who's sexy, and an entrepreneur entrepreneur, and you can do this in any space that you want. And anybody that wants to judge you really doesn't have any authority. Nobody, who are you anyways to judge? But that was the big message, is that you can be anything that you want, especially for women, and feel comfortable enough to do that and still be this businesswoman, regardless of what, that's only the exterior. What about the interior? That's exactly what it comes down for me. So if you really know me, then you know that it's not about the pictures. It's not about the glam. It has nothing to do with that. It's about giving a message and having a voice for women that they can be anything that they want.
Well, I want to say one more thing, turn over to Brandon, but like one of the biggest things I love about the direction you're moving in is, if anybody watches your social media, you're also okay being on camera with no makeup on.
Yeah, no, I don't care.
You just don't care. And that's a great thing. And I think in a world where filters and like all these different things people are doing to their pictures and their videos to look a certain way, I think people also need to know the other side of you. It's not always about the glam, the glitz, etc. Because if they watch your stories or they know who you are as a woman, you're also okay putting yourselves out there where other women wouldn't. They wouldn't post a picture without it being like filtered 874,000 times and like smooth their face where they don't have a nose. Like I've seen it over and over again. It looks crazy to me. But you're also out there being you, being the real mom, being the one in the gym with no makeup on and stuff like that. And I think to me that outweighs all the glitz and glam, because you're like, yeah, listen, I'm doing this to empower people, but it's also okay on the flip side to just be naturally yourself and not have to wear all the glitz and glam too. I think that's equally prevalent in your life. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think it's unauthentic either. People ask me like, what's authenticity? It's being your real self, but your true self can look, and I have no shame. I always say, most things on my body are not real, but I have no shame saying that, from the hair weave to the fake tan to the Botox. I have zero shame. It is what it is, but it makes me feel good. Does that make me unauthentic because that makes me feel good? It doesn't make me unauthentic. That's my true authenticity, is that I want to wear hair weave and I am okay with putting Botox and filler. And then some people will say, well, your daughter's watching. Well, you know what my daughter's saying? Go, that's great, Mom. I watched you struggle. I'm aware that I have kids. Their eyes are on me all the time. I know that. And that's exactly why I'm unapologetically who I am.
Yeah, I think you have to continue to do it. I'm a big believer in do whatever the hell you want to do.
If it makes you feel good.
If you like what you're doing, you're having a good time, it makes you feel good. Like, who the fuck cares about anyone's opinion about anything? It doesn't
that
matter.
Unsolicited advice that I was talking about. That's exactly what
it doesn't matter. But another thing, like, well, I mean, have you had any of the people that have been judging you say it directly to your face in person? Have you really?
Oh yeah. I've definitely had somebody say something, somebody very close to me say something. Yeah. Like, who are you? This is not the Mara that I know. Who are you? You want to be real and you call yourself a self-made millionaire. But I want to clarify that. Was I self-made in the fact, was anything handed to me? Nothing was handed to me. Did I have other people help me along the way? Absolutely. 100%. I didn't do this alone. I wish I could take all the credit. No. But self-made means is that nothing was handed down. I didn't inherit a business from a family member. No, I did not. I worked from the way bottom as a salesperson and worked to the top. That's the truth. Was I blessed enough to come into an organization that allowed me into the space? Absolutely, 100%. I had a lot of mentorship and leadership along the way, for sure. But I don't think that makes me any less of a millionaire. It doesn't matter how you got there, but I'm it's not something that I deny. But yeah, I've had people say stuff to me about the covers. Who do you think you are? I've had people, oh yeah. Close friends.
I always say,
Really?
Yeah.
opinions are like assholes, and everybody has one. So I've said that my whole life. I'll say this. I went through a lot of time in my life where I was unsure of the direction. Right? We've all had our ups and downs. We've all gone through very hard things, bad decisions that we've all made. I've made a ton of mistakes just like anybody else, and I feel like the judgment throughout my life has pushed me. It's really weird. It's like, I feel like for me as an individual, again, not being gender specific, but me not being a man or woman, just me as an individual, dude, it's like I've always fought with my back against the wall. I always know that you can put me in the worst spot ever. I'm going to fight my way out of it. And as a matter of fact, when people did give their opinions or they were being judgmental, or they were questioning my authenticity, or they were saying, who's this? Because I had it a lot. I mean, you know a lot about my story. I ran illegal car gangs for a lot of living people. Like, I started posting motivational posts. They're like, Todd, that's not you. You're the drunk guy that punches people downtown. What's going on? And it forced me more to be the motivational guy. And I always say, I always want to thank those people, because like a lot of people get mad and say, and you know, if I'm Brandon's like, fuck them. Who cares what they think, right? To me, it's just like, no. I love hearing it. I'm okay with it. And I think that a lot of those people back then are like, holy shit, like this, he actually did it, right? He actually went through with it. And I think that that's what motivates me. It's what pushes me every single day. Because the more you doubt me, the more I'm going to win. As cliche as it sounds, because you see all these motivational posts online and people talking about, oh, go ahead and doubt me and I'll prove you wrong. That's literally my life. When people say things to me, I don't think they realize, because they do it to hurt you. They do it to like their opinion. They're like, go back to being the old boring person that they want you to be. Because if you outperform them or you outshine them, or you're in the limelight and then all of a sudden they're not, it makes them feel, it's usually massive insecurity when people do that. Massive insecurity. Yeah. And they could have all the money in the world. You have money and your success doesn't make you secure. Okay. How you treat people makes you secure, right? How you are as a person makes you secure. So I think for me personally, I welcome it. I don't want it to happen. Like, I want everybody to love Todd, but that's not true. Everybody doesn't love Todd, but I use it as a tool to help me win. And it always has, and it always will.
I honestly, truly, genuinely wish that I cared enough to let it drive me. Now, I'm still a driven person. I'm just driven by other things, but like, I really wish I could use it as like ammo. I just genuinely do not give a fuck about what I don't value. The only people in my life that I truly value their opinion about how I'm living my life is my wife, my 2 boys, and my mom. But outside of that, like, you're my best friend. So here's a great example.
Like, that's so
Here's
rude.
a great example. You're my best friend. If you have an opinion on, which we've talked about, if you have an opinion on like how, not like work shit, but like how I'm living my life, like what I'm doing, like, I honestly don't. I'm glad I listen to you because you're my friend. But I don't do anything with it. I don't really care. Like, I know it sounds kind of cold-hearted and like assholey, but I don't care. You're going to have your opinion, and some of it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I'm not going to do it, but it's interesting. I see your perspective, but I don't care. And I wish I honestly did more, because maybe certain things would drive me. But that's why the whole hater thing just doesn't work for me, because to say that someone's to say that someone's a hater means, for me, it means that I have to value what they're saying in the first place, and I don't. So like, if I have haters, cool, I guess, but I don't. Shit, I wish I could do something.
That's funny. See, I resonate completely with that, with the haters. Like, I resonate with Todd 100%. I think that is like, when people ask me how and why I am so successful, it's because I've used all the negative reinforcement and all the judgment, and I've used it to propel me forward. Oh, you think I can't do this? You think I can't? Okay, let me show you that I can. And not only am I going to do it, I'm going to do it at a level that's so high that you're going to eat your words. Because it does come from a place of insecurity. I was insecure. Like, for a long time I was insecure. Everybody has insecurities, but I finally found that I could use that insecurity and then turn it around to propel me forward every time somebody told me I couldn't do something. And it happened over and over. I competed in a bikini contest. What is it? The MPC or whatever. So everyone's like, oh, you're never going to do it. I was like, watch. And I did it for 2 years. And then they were like, you're never going to write a book. And guess what? I did. You're never going to be the top of your sales organization. And I did, with odds against me, everyone thinking that I was never going to do it. So because I think I do, or I did, not as much now, but you are worried about what other people are saying about you. And it's an insecurity. And I thank God, I think you can relate, is that we've been able to use that insecurity as fuel in our fire to go as hard as we can and be like, you know what? I am that person. Oh, you're not authentic? Well, I'm going to go ahead and show you how authentic I am by being completely raw and honest with everything about me that is, in your opinion, unauthentic. Let's go.
I'll say that. This is one time where I feel like we could almost debate this, because like, I've had conversations with you personally where you do care. Like, I want people to know this, because you do sound like a cold-hearted asshole.
But the word care.
Right. Well, I'm going to help
clear
so it up for people today. I definitely know you well enough where I can clear it up. So you do care. It's just that you are so methodical in thinking on how someone's opinion can either affect you or don't. You do care. It's like you'll hear it, not from everybody, but like for me, if we talk, we have a conversation we've had in the past, you'd be like, no, I totally get your opinion, right?
Yeah.
You might not agree with it, and that's okay, because some things we don't agree on, some things we do. But that being said, for people that you actually trust and you care, I know those people you mentioned, they're your family, they're your lifeline, they're et cetera, right? But we are basically like family, in other words, right? But you do listen. I just don't want anybody to think about like, oh, Brandon's a cold-hearted asshole. I know you don't care about the people that are like
If they
watching
do,
right
that's
now.
okay.
whatever.
That's their opinion.
But we've talked about this, and this is where I'm gonna kind of not agree. We would reply to people online and do it in a way so softly when we didn't agree with them that Brandon would go, why the fuck didn't we just say, no, we don't agree with you? Why didn't we just say exactly like, listen, some of you might not agree with this. And we would always have this like precursor when we started doing content. And we did it all the time. And you were like,
we still do it sometimes.
Yeah. So we do care. And I think that there's a
soften the
portion of us that does. There's a portion of you that does. I think it's just level of caring, right? You do care. It just depends. But
Maybe,
like,
maybe
you
I
know,
just don't know how to
you
define
do.
the word care.
Maybe
But
just
I'll
take it
say
with a
I
grain of
don't do
salt.
anything with the information. And I
Again,
wish I
that's not
could
true.
do something with
Because
the
you and I have had
information.
conversations and you go, and when the times that you do agree, you're like, totally agree. And then you do make changes in business and personal stuff. We've had these
No,
conversations.
business
in the
is
past.
different. I'm talking
Yeah.
about like the way people define a hater, like the book thing, for as an
Yeah.
example. I'm not going to write maybe I'll write a book one day. Who knows?
you are.
But if I say if I said today I'm going to go write a book, and someone else told me no, you're not going to go write a book.
It wouldn't propel you.
I don't. Okay, like you have nothing to do with my life. You don't even.
Yeah.
So no, that opinion doesn't matter to me.
Yeah,
Now maybe if like an super famous author that I knew that knows me personally and has done the thing that I want to do, if they told me, well, no, you can't do it, then I'd be like, what the fuck?
Adam
Really?
Grant.
That'd be weird. Adam Grant, genius. So, anyways, yeah, it's hard to define the word care. But speaking of caring, because I know this about you, but I want to ask this question in a different way. People that know you know that one of the probably the best things about you, and from my perspective, one of the main reasons that you've grown your business to what it is because you have people's backs and you're like you pour into people and you're loyal to people.
To a flaw.
A lot, like amazingly, and it's a really good. That's you two are a lot like that too. I'm the asshole. Thanks. So, but you really do seriously. Like you pour into people more than it. You care about people. You give a fuck a lot. But when do you have to stop in a specific scenario, or do you?
When Seth
Maybe
finally
you
gets
never do.
involved, it's like when Seth finally gets involved, it's like enough. Like it's so sad, but it's true. Like I can't. It's like I'm a battered woman. I keep coming back for more. It's really I don't want to say it's maybe a flaw, but it's a really hard for me to be like I just don't care and I'm turning my back on you. Mm-hmm. That is very, very hard for me. I'm a relationship hoarder, and I have a very hard time, even if somebody has hurt me, if they have betrayed me, even stolen from me. I've had that happen, and I still won't get rid of the person because I'm always trying to see it through another lens and I think that is one of the hardest I still battle with today. So I would say that right now, luckily I have a husband that doesn't have a heart. No, he does. No, sometimes he has to save me from my own self a lot of the time. I think that is one thing that I need to work on, is that I still battle with that today. When do you finally say enough is enough and be done? So it's not, I haven't stopped. I still do it.
At
So
least
there's no
from a
when.
business standpoint, it seems like the pros have outweighed the cons.
For sure.
Obviously, if you can handle it from like an emotional standpoint, but
I think people show their true colors and then they end up weeding themselves out. And that's what I really think happens. I think that, yes, I've definitely been victim and I would say, somebody asked me this, Mara, you've been screwed over so many times in this business. How do you keep going? And my answer is that the good has outweighed the bad so many more times in the experience and the lives changed. And that is by far the greatest reward. The few times that I've been hurt, it hasn't been ample, like, oh, it's terrible. It's a few times. That's the truth. And I do think that I think shit floats, and I think people's true colors eventually come out and they do it to themselves every single time.
Yeah, it's funny because like, I always think it's kind of a weird, if you kind of almost take that and talk about loyalty, like you're super loyal to people, but from like if when you're a business owner, and this is may sound kind of weird, you are such a great person and a good business owner that you have a lot of loyalty to people. You'll have their backs no matter what to the end.
Yeah.
But I think that for all, maybe everybody, I'm not sure, of the ones who are working for a business owner, an employee or contractor, whatever, I think at the end of the day, in reality, they may be your friend or your friends that go to birthday parties, whatever. But from the business standpoint, I think people are loyal to opportunity overall at the end of the day. If you work for somebody, you give them opportunity, you're super loyal to them, and I'll make up numbers. They're making $200,000 a year, and they're happy, and they love you, and the culture's great, the money's great, and everything. And they had some business come over and say, "I'll give you $2 million a year if you come work with me tomorrow." I think realistically, almost everyone is going to go, "Mara, I love you, but I just got a raise to $2 million a year. I'm going to go do it." Now, you're such a good person.
And I think I understand that.
I love you. Congratulations. Go. Right.
I think that's exactly what it is. Like, I understand that. I totally, if someone did that, I'd be like, I get it. It's $2 million. Absolutely. I do think that. I think that, I know that. And I know that I stopped putting my expectations on other people because I would get sadly disappointed. Yeah. So I don't expect that at all. This is who I am. I don't expect that from everybody else. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It has worked for me. And that's what makes me feel good. I can't be disloyal. I'm loyal to a fault. Even I try to look at every angle of it, from their family. Am I going to screw someone over by getting rid of them? Is it going to hurt their income? That's a big thing. I don't want to hurt anybody. That's not what I'm looking to do. Would other people do it to me? Yeah, it's happened to me, but that's okay. That's them. I know that at the end of the night, the only person I need to face is, I know people say God, but yes, God for sure, but I need to face myself, because that image that's looking back is me. Mm-hmm. So I have to be okay with me. And that's what makes me okay with me, is continuously being loyal.
I think that a lot of it has to do with, us personally as well, because we talk about loyalty in business, life, whatever. I think that I've never wanted to let myself down, because I've done it so much in the past. Once you continue to let yourself down, it's like you don't want anybody else to make the same mistakes that you did, right? And I always talk about this. We're on these Zoom calls or we're doing these trainings. I always say man, how many times, if we had great parents in our lives, did we, at my age now, look back and go, I should have listened to them, right? I should have listened to what they said. Because, parents or mentors or whoever they might be, when we're younger, we think we're, Superman, Superwoman, we can do anything, everything's going to be just fine. But as you get older, you always wish that you listened to the advice that was given to you many years ago. And it's always had I listened to what I was told back then, I would be in a much better place now. I think that aligns with how you and I, because we are a lot alike in that sense, where it is hard to get rid of people, right? I think if we're kind of relating it to business, though, if you don't have the money as a business to keep someone, the actual financial cost to keep someone that is not performing once you pour into them time and time again is so huge. Because if you have someone mediocre and you have someone that's not performing, and you've done everything you can, which we know that you do in your organization and in life in general, and you continue to pour into them and pour into them and pour into them, it's our perfect 101. It's the my fault, yours theory. It's always you do everything you can to help people, but if you continuously keep them, you're not only putting your entire business at risk, because people are going to be like, Mara's never going to get rid of me. Todd's never going to get rid of me. Brandon's never going to get rid of me, right? Well, not Brandon and Seth, because they'll get rid of anybody. But, you do have to have that happy medium in business, because it is also the truth, right? You're setting the example of, if I keep this person that's underperforming, and if I've done my job as a leader and poured into this person time and time again, when is enough enough? And I think if you quantify it monetarily, and then obviously mentally for your people's mindsets in your organization, you are not just hurting that person. You're not saving the person either way. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting the other people in your organization by saying, you know what, it's okay. It's okay if you're just mediocre and you just want to hang out and do nothing all day, because I'm not going to get rid of you. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times, and I know you personally, we've had a lot of personal conversations within your organization and business about several people. It's if you continue to allow this to happen, the domino effect that it's going to happen, and this happens in all businesses, not just yours, is astronomical. It is so big, and it affects mentally the people that are in your organization. It affects the leaders a certain way. We've always talked about leadership. If you're not leading the right way, well, guess what? We're the leaders too. You're the leader of your entire organization. And I think that actually having that Seth and having that Brandon in this type of scenario is always good to have, because you have us and we're let's give him another shot, right?
Yeah.
And Brandon's like, dude, we gave him 15, right? Like, that's done. Let's cut it off, whatever. I think having that kind of bond and that business relationship that you and Seth has, husband and wife, I think is fantastic. Because Seth is, we joke about it, tell him a cold-hearted. He's not cold-hearted. Seth is a brilliant mind. He's a brilliant businessman. So, like, for him to kind of step in and go, hey, Mara, listen, enough's enough. Yes, we know you have the final call, Mara. We get it. But we've talked about in the past. Remember we used to talk and I would say, you said, why do you keep saying Seth? And you know this, I'm going to make the decision, right? And even though you respect Seth's decision, you know, but it's always like, I always wanted to give, obviously, you and Seth the respect to ask you guys equally when we first started working together. My point is that if you continuously pour into someone and they don't make changes, they can't recognize that you are pouring into them, you're trying to help them make these slight changes, they stop doing it and they don't make changes, it only hurts an organization. And long term, if they're not as strong as you or myself, it could mentally hurt us too. Are we not doing it? And then all of a sudden are we not doing the right thing? Did we not give them enough? And now we're like, wait, are we bad people? Did we not do our jobs? And we start blaming ourselves. I've taken a lot of notes from like someone like Seth or Brandon, etc., and said, you know what, I want to help people, but I'm not going to do it at my expense or the expense of the other people that are in my organization. And at one point, it's got to stop, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've definitely had to be the one to have the hard talk. I've done it. I've done it quite a few times. But again, it comes down to considering all aspects. Is the juice worth the squeeze all the time? Do I recognize the leak? Like, I'm not blinded, that's for sure. I'm not blinded to what's going on. But before I make such a drastic decision, and it's not always easy, especially in the organization that I'm in, is to come in and be like, all right, we're done. There's always a domino effect. So I try to look at the entire picture as big as it is. When it's like on a different totem pole, yeah, it makes it a lot easier. But what is the ultimate adverse effect in the decision that I have to make in order to like put a stop to whatever's going on that's not positively or growing my business? Yes, I struggle with that, absolutely. But I think the bigger picture or the bigger answer or question, I should say, is the juice worth the squeeze on it? And that's what I look at. And yes, if Seth is adamant, then I know that it needs to be done. But if he's the one that I'll go to, and if he's still willing to give it another shot, then I know that it's worth giving it. Yeah, I'll know. Yeah, because I'm the last person to get rid of somebody. But it's nice. You're right, to have somebody in that space that can look at it from a different perspective. I say on a macro, he looks at everything on a macro level. I don't even know what that means. But when we have to scale our business, another term I don't even know, but scaling is a big word that I use that a lot in business, scaling. But if we need to scale our business in any way, yes, it's always good to have a scaler, a scaler partner, but somebody that can kind of look in and tell you, enough is enough. It's time to pull the plug. And that's, going back to like all of it is you asked me, do I ever, when is enough enough? It's usually when Seth says it's enough. And then I know.
Have you ever sat down and fired anybody?
Yeah.
Have you really?
Not fired, but I've got them out of their position. Yeah, I've done it a few times.
I would never guess that either.
Yes, you guys do know. I did it last year. Yes, I did it.
Oh, like demotions.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, fired and been like get
fired.
rid of.
Have you ever fired anybody?
No, I won't do it.
No.
No.
It's so
You're
funny because like your brain is a good
the-
question, right? Because like literally we've seen you go, no, I'm just going to move him over here because that's just who you are, which is again a great quality because you do always think about, and I want again anybody that doesn't know you, they need to know this. Like we've had multiple conversations in the couple years we've had the luxury of working with you, and it's so cool. I love it. Brandon sometimes goes, what the fuck, right? But I like actually seeing like, because you're like, you find opportunity for people instead of getting rid of them. Because you're like, it's going to affect their income. I'm not going to do that to them. This is what's going to happen. And then we'll have a conversation with you. Seth will even say something. Sometimes you're like, I don't care what you guys say. I'm not doing that. I'm going to make sure they're getting paid, and I'm going to make sure that I don't affect their family in a negative way. It's such a strong quality. But you're right. There is like this level where it's kind of like, okay, enough's enough. Now I feel like I'm getting, because you can get taken advantage of that.
Yeah,
I
have. I'll tell. This is the best story that I have about firing someone. So that we had this leader that was stealing from us. He was stealing leads, and Seth was like, stealing is like an absolute no way for Seth. Like I'm still like, maybe, maybe he needed, he's going to give him back. It's not a big deal. And so this guy is like, this was going on for months, stealing leads from the agents, from the leaders, from his own girlfriend's people. And Seth goes behind my back. Oh, I'll never forget this. He calls home office and he tells them like, we're getting rid of this guy. So Seth calls this meeting. Now he's firing the guy. I'm thinking we're going to go in, we're going to talk to him and we're just going to do a little demotion. So the guy's like explaining his story. He's like, yo, bro, like this is what really happened. And Seth looks at him. He goes, are you done? And the guy's like, yeah. He goes, thanks. You're fired. Get out. We're terming you. I was like, oh. I could not even believe that was, and he was like, I had to do it. I had to save you from yourself because you would have let him stay and he was stealing from your organization and you cannot have that. I mean, I'll never forget.
He's right.
Like, he's like, I had to. And everybody was in on this. That would like all the other leaders, they all knew that I had no idea. And I was about to save him and said, nope, sorry.
Because he knew if he told you, you would have never let it happen.
I would have never let it happen. Yeah,
100%.
it's true.
But the guys like Seth and me, like we need you, the people like you two, just as much as the people like you two need people like me and Seth, because Seth or I could very quickly like make a decision that we do truly believe, and I'd still stand behind it's the right decision, but we could probably make it too soon, and it would start, the perception would be that we aren't great leaders because we don't give people enough time and grace and all that kind of stuff. So it goes hand in hand. So you got a good partnership. It's a scary amount, like you and I.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you're saying that, and I will say this, like, I'm thinking of scenarios, obviously can't say out loud, that we've had in the past between you and I about, like, difference of opinions and how we feel about stuff. You know, you are a lot like Seth in the way, and I know Seth's like this too, where you will stand behind your decision. Like, you're a stubborn son of a bitch. And people, and anybody, I
think everyone in this room is fairly stubborn.
Yeah, you are super stubborn. Like, I bet we all are stubborn in our own ways, but you're like sometimes I'll have a conversation and I'll be like, Brandon, but it's just, and you'll know it's wrong because I know you know, because I can tell by the look on your face. You'll be like, that's the decision I made. And then, and I know that Sarah Solomon does a production. He posted this video one time, crazy stuff. He's in Hawaii and he posted this video, and like the entire team, Ian, who's running the camera right now, might have been there and saw it, but he was like, posted this video, and all of us look at it and we go, no chance we're posting that. He uploads it to Sarah's file. I was like, was Brandon like completely wasted when he did that? And I called Brandon. Everybody's giving his opinion, this and that. And Sarah's like, don't tell him, because you know he's on vacation. He's going to argue that it's right. He's going to tell you his side of the story. He's going to, just don't tell him. I couldn't help it because I'm an asshole. And I go, Brandon, listen, we didn't do it. Just we'll talk about it when he get back. He goes, no, we're talking about it now. Tell me why. And then he went back and he's like, well, I don't care. The whole world, Todd, could tell me I'm wrong. I'm right. He goes, this is what I feel.
It's because I have conviction and confidence in my beliefs, and I'm a principled man. That's why. I'm just trying
to prove that there's a flaw in us, and I want this to be transparent. There's a flaw in us wanting to give so much and like give people that's our kind of, because it can be a flaw at some point. There's also a flaw on their side as being so harsh and not like trying to understand as much in certain times. So you are right. I'm saying that as a compliment to both of us. If we don't have the happy mediums to kind of at least push ourselves to kind of maybe stretch the rope just a little bit and say, man, maybe you should listen to Todd here, or maybe Todd should listen to more Brandon here, or maybe you should listen to Seth and Seth should listen to you more. You have to have that in business, because I don't think, you talked about it earlier about like self-made millionaire. I don't know who has a problem with it or whatever you say. Listen, none of us, there's not a person on earth that I know that has done it by themselves that I know of. Now, there could be a person that maybe, wrote a book one day and they put it out there.
Traders, they do
the crypto, they do it by themselves. 100%. But you have to have someone by you. And I think that a good message for people that we see in your organization for us all the time is you have to have people around you that you listen to, that you're open to listening to for constructive criticism, not trying to poke at you or not insecurities on their part, trying to bring the worst out in you because they don't want you to do better, but really good people in business around you that will lift you up and help you, because you're right. You don't do anything on your own. As much as we like to say we can, you surround yourselves with good people, good things happen.
It's true. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
For your business, I'm curious because, people, and I do it all the time with super, super successful people, but like a lot of people look at Mara and your region and go like, damn, like I want to do that and I think I can do that. What the fuck is she doing, or what does she do that like I haven't yet? What's that thing? So 2-part question. One is, what's like the thing, maybe it's a characteristic of you or values or whatever that you think is like the thing that's gotten you to grow your business to where it is. But the other is like tangibly, like a business decision that gets made or whatever has been like the thing, the reason that you've been able to grow a massive business where others may be trying, but they're stuck.
I would say to answer your first question, I'm 100% vested in people. I'm intrigued by people. I think that, it doesn't matter the race, religion, creed, doesn't matter. I really don't care. I'm always invested and I love people. I'm in a people-oriented business. And I think that's what people forget is that when you're in a people-oriented business, then you're there for the people. Those people don't work for me. Nobody works for me. They work with me and I serve them. That's number one, first and foremost. I think the second part is like something tangible as far as like what am I willing to do is I'm willing to invest. A lot of people get stuck because they are scared. They I can give you one story and I'll make it quick, but when we were moving to the location where we are now. I wasn't making money like this at all. I think Seth and we had like $30,000 in our bank account. And that was actually like first, last, and security deposit for that space. And I was scared to death. I'm like, there's no way. Like, we're going to put all of our money, like this is crazy. And that, what is it, Field of Dreams, where they say, if you build it, they will come. Like, and Seth was like, look, we have to do this. I'm telling you, like, we can do this. You're a massive recruiter. Like, we have all the systems. Let's do it. And we invested literally our last dollar. And it was whatever. We had ugly brown carpets and shitty cubicles, but it was something that we needed to do for our organization. And we not only now money's one thing too, but we also put the sweat and the time in there. So we went in there, we invested a ton of money for everybody else. And within that year, we had the largest and biggest office in the company. So I think that's a big thing. People get stuck on the money and forgetting that income is the outcome. That's not the objective. It never is. And if if that's the intent, and the intent is to really serve people and give them a better environment, and then of course combined with culture, like you have to create an environment that people are fully bought in. People know if you're full of shit. They can smell it right away. So culture is a big part of that, creating an environment that people want to be in. So whether it's, scratch off lottery tickets or providing lunch every Friday. It's the little things, having a little note or texting them that you care, whatever it is, but providing a culture that is by far like a safe space, of course, number one, but number two, an environment that's fun. I love it. I get to go to work every single day with the closest people in my life and make money. Like that's what I always said. So.
Yeah. I think there's two like main reasons why businesses grow. I think we've talked about this a lot, and it's culture and opportunity, right? You can't have one without the other. You can, but you're not going to have a higher retention, and people aren't going to stay. You can have opportunity, you can make as much money as you want, but people aren't going to stay just for opportunity. Eventually they're going to get pissed if you talk down to them. The culture's not there. They don't like being in the office, whatever. And then you can have the best culture in the world, and if there's not opportunity to earn, it doesn't matter how nice you are, they're not going to stay, right? So two big things for all businesses is you have to have culture and opportunity. And you said something that I love saying, that people work with you, not for you. And we know that of you for sure, right? One of the last questions I want to ask, because we've been talking for a while and we're so grateful for you to be here, is, I know how gratitude has impacted your life in a very big way. I'm a very big practicer of gratitude, and you do listen to me because you have been like, every now and then I get a gratitude text message from Brandon. I haven't had those in like
I think I sent one to
decades.
Mara and Seth one time.
Yeah,
it took him like a week to respond, but that's fine.
No,
They always respond to me right away. That's so cool. But it's funny though. No, honestly, just to close you on earlier, so you do listen, because you did start sending gratitude texts. So he does listen every now and then, does, right, Mara? So, but it's very cool because he does. Because when I get them, it like I see a gratitude text from Brandon. I talk about him specific because I'm not surprised, because I think Brandon is a very, 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 I say stubborn earlier, it's the wrong word. Actually just a slow burner when it comes to like just changing. And I think Seth's a lot the same way, but he's a slow burner because like when he thinks about it, and then like literally like 7 months later, he'll do something. He won't tell me I was right. He won't say, Todd, you were there. He'll start making those changes and I'll be like, shit, like what the hell? Because it is hard to move him. We're like, you and I were like, fuck it, we'll try it, right? Like it is what it is, right? But gratitude has been such a huge part of my life. And I don't want to say neglected it, because it was just non-existent in my life for so long. How important is having gratitude in yourself and in your business? Because I know for me, when I work with people that are ungrateful, man, it's like, it's worse than like anything to me. It's where they can call me the biggest piece of shit. They don't like me, whatever. But when you're ungrateful, that to me is like the worst downfall ever, because I know how much you guys and Seth pour into your business. And unfortunately, I also know that you do have or have had people in your organization in the past that have been extremely ungrateful at times. And we know that, right? I want to know how important gratitude is on all levels, personally and in business. People that you give stuff to, not like just money, but like time, and pour into them mentally, and like do all the things that you do as a coach and in your personal life. How important is it?
I think it's at the top of my list is being gratuitous, if you will. Gratitude is,
God, that was so much better than the way I said it.
I think gratitude is what kind of grounds me. Just kind of, it goes back to being humble. Never forget where you come from and who helped you get there. And a lot of the time, I love the business I work in because I'm reminded of it. I have, like you said at the beginning, I have the godfather of one of my children. He works there, and I was his daughter's babysitter. And it just, every day I'm reminded of the gratitude. And in turn, he is my nephew, his son. My nephew is in the business and he's doing really well. And he came to my office and he's like, he's just like his godmom. Like, what gratitude, that's why I do this. The gratitude reminds me every single day why I get up in the morning. My why used to be to provide for my family. Like, thank God I'm able to do that. But my why has changed, and it comes down to gratitude, to be able to be impactful and to see the gratitude from others, and I think it's equally important for everybody there's a quote that Troy McQuaig, the CEO of our company, says, to whom much is given, much is expected and required. And it's so true, and I try to pour that message, and that's why we do philanthropy in the community. That's part of gratitude, giving back. It's just a big part of business, and it's a big part of your character. And I think it just kind of reminds us, it takes us back. There are times, the money, the cars, the boats, that's it's all great. Those are tangible things that can be taken away at any time. It's the gratitude that can never be taken away.
Fire. I love it. No.
Cool. I'm going to ask one more question since you don't have this, because I just thought about it before I really lose my train of thought. So I think in business a lot of times, especially when you're strong, especially as a woman, but also men in our aspects of life too, like we expect people to be us, right? Like we put ourselves in positions. Brandon and I talk about it all the time. We're like, why is it so hard for them to just do X? Right? Like, it's like, we don't get it. Like, you have the roadmap, you have the tools, and then you go so far as to create CRMs and processes to go like this. All you have to do is hit a button.
Do it.
It's just done. Like, hit the button, and they still don't do it. And I think that a lot of leaders, they don't understand how hard it is to actually get someone, because I think for me a lot of it is like believing in the person and then like mentoring and helping those person. But I think one of my biggest faults is expecting people just to be me, right?
Yeah.
And they're not, right? And that's okay. And I'm not like a lot of other people. I'm not saying like, oh, Todd's so great you can be like, no. What I mean is that there are certain things that I do, like response time for me is a huge thing. Like Brandon and I are completely different. Brandon's on the weekends with his family, like his phone's pretty much off. Like he'll respond to me. Sometimes I'll text him, it'll show that he read it, and he won't reply for like
That's
8
why
hours
I do
later.
not have reader receipts on.
I can 100%
says
does.
delivered.
100% does.
read.
I'll prove it right now. But here's the deal, right? He'll read it and then he won't respond for like 8 hours later. I almost get, and I don't get anxiety. Nothing bothers me. I'm like, fucking read it and it's business. Now it just takes 2 seconds. You have your phone in your hand to go, I got it, bro. Right? I'm so big on response time because response to leads, response to businesses, response to individuals. Everybody has this thing in their hand 24/7. Period. End of conversation.
I agree.
Right? So it's like if I text you, answer the text. If I send you an email, you turn your notifications on, answer the email. Do I not screenshot emails and send them to you sometimes?
Disgusting.
People like, I get it because I'm just like,
Disgusting.
I'll screenshot and I'll be like, bro, did you see this? He's like, dude, I got it.
I
right?
have
15
an
minutes later.
email app on my phone and I check it. So, just relax.
So I am very big on response time, but I also love seeing that it's helped people because people that weren't good at response time would take days to get stuff done. Now I see are getting stuff done like right away. And I am a firm believer that if you act on something right away, you'll get it done quicker. There's better response.
Yeah.
Everything comes out of responding right away, in my opinion, right? Not always saying I'm right. But I also expect people to do that, and I get disappointed when they're not. And I had to start learning that not everybody is going to do that like I do. How do you navigate through that as an extraordinary leader that you are, that people aren't going to be Mara in most cases, and they're not going to be as driven or as resilient or as dedicated or as much of a people person? How do you navigate through that when you know their personality and who they are just isn't you?
first I agree with you on the response time. That's why I think it's funny when like we don't respond. I mean, I usually always respond. So unless I really didn't see it because I'm inundated with text, but I agree with you 100%. Like I think it's so rude when people don't respond. But just navigate through that. Just hit them up with the question mark or the googly eyes, Yeah. But you know what? Like I think it just comes from a place of being disappointed so many times like that. And I said that before. You can't put your expectations on other people because you'll be sadly disappointed. Seth does the same thing. It really annoys the shit out of me that you have your phone, you see it, just answer the damn text. What is the problem? And if I'm calling, like it's not hard. The email thing I know because it doesn't pop up on my phone, but the text message, come on, But you know what? I think it's just knowing what my people are capable of and knowing their love language. And everybody has a strong suit and everybody has a weak suit. And knowing also that a 10 is a 10 and a 1 is probably not going to be a 10. That's just not what your sales organization is made up of. It's made up of the top 20%, not the top 80%. It's actually the bottom 80% and the top 20%. That's how it looks. And that's trial and error and knowing that. So I don't really get mad. I mean, you have to really do something to really piss me off to get upset, but it's just dealing and navigating with that and then just being annoying. Like I'm so annoying. I am kind of like you were saying, you're like, I know how to get the leaders involved. We just keep, that's all I do. I just keep sending the same shit over and over. And then eventually, because I know that too with salespeople that we have ADD. So if you're constantly in their face and you keep reminding them over and over, then it kind of eliminates that, and then there's less excuse and I'm just on them. The follow up. I don't get.
Let me comment on this response time thing for a second. First of all, one of them is genuinely born out of a weakness of mine. I think a lot of people like us can probably self-identify as workaholics. And I know for a fact, unless I do something when I go home and I want to spend time with the kids before I put them to bed, unless I do what I do with my phone, I know that I'll end up working. I know it. And there's this thing, it was a couple years ago, I can't remember, it's when Jackson was a kid, but I saw this some little video that's supposed to make you go, oh my God, I'm such an asshole, where the kid keeps walking up to the dad and the dad's like always like this, and then later down the road the kid's older and he has all these memories and his memory isn't the dad's face, it's the dad with a phone in his face. It's this thing that really makes you feel like a piece of shit. Anyway, so when I started we just get busy all the time, we're trying to grow the business, all this stuff, and obviously plenty of conversations with Melissa. I was like, okay, I got to do something to make sure I don't get into the trap of working when it's truly, genuinely not live or die urgent. So I put my phone on silent and I put it like this and I leave it in the room, in the kitchen, whatever, and I just don't go to it. So when everyone says you have your phone on you, generally speaking, yes, that's true. But I purposely don't in certain times when I'm with the family. And if it's really urgent, I know you can call Melissa and Melissa will answer and then she can get a hold of me. And then, when you're in the middle of the day kind of thing where, it's business hours, so to speak. And I get a bunch of text messages and we're sitting on Zooms back to back to back to back to back. This is, I would say you're better at it than me. I don't know what's bad and worse, but my whole mindset is, who I've decided to schedule this meeting with, and I'm on Zoom right now, I've dedicated this amount of time to that person. And again, unless something is literally life or death, I think everyone thinks so many things are urgent and they're not actually urgent. They can fucking wait an hour. I've dedicated my time to this person on the Zoom or this person in the meeting. And I think it is personally for me, because I know we're different than this. For me, I feel like I'm disrespecting the person in the meeting if I'm giving my attention somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. And I'm scared of feeling like I'm the asshole that disrespected somebody. So I try to almost never do it. So I just know that I'll get to it. If it's like life or death, then maybe it'll just keep vibrating and then I'll be like, oh, maybe something happened and it's my wife. And then obviously, but that's where it's born out of. It's born out of making sure I'm not the memory of the dad with the phone in his face 30 years from now.
Jeez.
And it's born out of, I don't want to seem like I've disrespected somebody, because I hate when I feel disrespected when someone sits here. If you were sitting in this podcast and had answered 20 phone calls and been texting all the time, I would feel disrespected.
Yeah.
So I choose to not do that to others because I hate that.
Yeah,
feeling.
I
You know what
get
mean? So
that.
that's
It
really
makes
where
it makes sense what you're
born
saying.
from.
No, I totally get it. I understand it because I know that's exactly how Seth thinks too.
Yeah.
Same thing. And then when he's off, but I'm never really off. I think that's what it is. We're never really off. And even when I'm on vacation, like he can separate that. I can't separate that. There's no way. I can't. And I always am looking at my phone. I want to be available to people. I pride myself on it. And I say it all the time. I'm available all the time. So then when I feel like I don't do that, then I'm not impeccable to my word, and then it's like a neuroses, and it's the OCD that kicks in. So
No, I totally
get
agree.
it. I get what you're saying. I don't disagree. I don't think there's a right or wrong.
No,
I
it's
wish
just
I
different.
could turn off like that. I really wish that I could just be like, okay, this is family intentional time, and completely turn off. But I can't do that. I hope my kids don't see me like.
I'm always curious about.
Now you got me scared. Now I'm like, oh God, now
No, it's
I
deep,
could.
it's real. It's just
Oh my
video.
God, like
it
my
makes
kid
you
will be
feel
on a
like, oh my
couch
God.
somewhere. Oh
Yeah,
God,
it's real
no,
'cause
no.
I
Oh
made a
my
video
God.
about it. So here's here's what I'll
no.
tell you though. It is true though. I get what you're saying, and when it's funny because like when I'm playing games with Gabriella, Michelle and I are like on the couch. She always wants to pull these board games out. You are right because it's sometimes like I'll get a text message, I'll see it from somebody, and I'll just answer it, and Gabriella will go, "Daddy, put the phone down," right? And so you're right, 100%. Now, you try to minimize that? Yes. But I also want to clarify that basically what you're saying is that if you are dying, call us. If you're dying, don't call Seth and Brandon because they're not going to save you,
Never.
right?
Yep, I'm
Yep.
not the guy you
Sorry.
But I'm just saying, like, I think as long as it's balanced, which balance is such a cliche word, but I think as long as it's balanced, it's good. And to your point, I don't think there's a right or wrong. I just feel like it's just who you are because I'm a lot like you in the sense where I do want to be available. I grew up most of my life with people not being available to me, right? And I think it's just a part of who I am where I just want to answer quickly. I totally get maybe someone feels disrespected if I say, hey, just give me 2 seconds, answer the phone call, whatever. Totally understand that. And I could also see how that could be. In the same token, I'm like, well, if they know I have my phone, I'm not answering, to your point, that's equally as disrespectful, right?
I think it goes full circle to
100%,
where we started this conversation. To me, is like everyone wants to say they're right, that thing sucks, you're an idiot, why are you doing that? I'm doing this way, and this is the way to do it. I think there's a lot less right and wrong in the world, and I think there's a lot more everything lives on a spectrum.
I agree.
And you do you. I don't think I do it right and you do it wrong. You do you. Now, what I am always curious about, because hashtag nerd Brandon, I'm always curious as to why do you do that? I know, like, my why is like, I got abandonment issues like a motherfucker. So like, I don't want, I got to make sure when I focus on my kids, I got to focus on the kids because I don't want the stupid video that I saw to haunt me. And I'm always curious for you guys, like why, like what, based on your experiences in your past, like why do you really do that? Like
you're
what's
thinking about like
deep
the
meaning?
psychological.
Yeah. That's what I'm more curious about. I don't care if you do it, you. It doesn't affect me most of the times because I don't need you to answer me, right?
I also feel like, and I'd love to hear Mark's take on this, and then we'll end this thing. But I honestly feel like, for me, I do want to be there for people. Number one, I always want to be available because I also say like you that I am. Number two, I think like Avery, as her being 26, has seen me literally at my worst.
Yeah.
Cars repossessed, bankruptcies, the whole 9 yards, right? And I always get emotional talking about it because it's like, I feel like they know me well enough to be like, Daddy's never going to let that happen to our family ever again.
Yeah.
Right. And that if he can provide, because we do spend quality time together, it may not be, not seeing a text message twice when I'm playing a board game with my daughter.
Right.
I spend just as much quality time with my kids as you do. You know what I mean? But it's like, for me, quality may not be putting my phone down for 2 hours. I might have to look at it a couple times. Or do we go on vacations? Yes. I'm like you. Like sometimes like, hey, just got to answer this real quick, kids, whatever. I feel like there's an understanding there. Now with Gabriella being like 9, she may not understand that. So I can definitely see the same side. But I also have an amazing wife who's always there, who's always pouring into our kids, who is constantly providing for our family in a way that she does. And I think it's fantastic, but I think there's just an understanding. And for Melissa, it may be like, Brandon, put the phone down. I even think for Michelle and like Avery and Gabriella, I think especially for Michelle, because she's also seen me at more. She's been there and helped me become who I am and lift me up. It's kind of like, I get it, right? Like that's just who Todd is, right? Like he's going to work. It's not disrespectful to us because he's providing this beautiful life for us. And emotionally we're there. We're tied in together, right?
Yeah.
There. So I think to your point, it is. It's just everybody's on their own spectrum and what they feel like is right or wrong, but I get through it. What drives me is like, I don't want to answer your question, I don't ever want to get back to the place that I once was and be depressed and have nothing. And then my kids look at me like, what the hell? I'd rather them go, be upset that I had to answer 2 text messages during a board game than to be broke and my kids not having what they have. Like,
Yeah.
that's me personally.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. It's having absolutely nothing and being desolate. And then also saying, like, I'm really big on, of course, this doesn't always happen, but I'm big on being impeccable to my word. And when I tell somebody that I'm always going to be there, I'm always going to be there. And you can call me in the middle of the night. You can call me whenever. That's just my personality. And then I feel guilty inside. I have a lot of guilt if I don't answer right away. So it's a big thing for me that to answer. And I mean, you don't know if that text message is going to make or break somebody's day. And I've seen that happen too, where somebody was like, oh my God, thank God you text me back. I needed you to say that back to me. You made my whole day. So that's the biggest thing. It's coming from a place of having nothing. And then the other place is a place of disappointment. I don't want to disappoint anybody, and I want to stay impeccable to what I say.
Amen. Well,
So call Todd tomorrow. I'll be in airplane mode.
Suck who?
no, but Mars, listen, we can talk for hours, which we already have. Obviously, today we thank you so much for joining us. We love who you are as a person. We love Seth. We love your family. You guys are such a big part of our lives now. I know how busy you are. For you to take the time out today to do this for us was fantastic. We truly appreciate you so much. Yeah,
I love you guys. Yeah, you guys are amazing.
Thank you. Well, at least I am. Brandon's not. All right. Anyways, we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for being on. Appreciate it. Talk to you later.